Hey y'all, welcome back to my channel. Today we're continuing on with my favorites of 2020. We'll be talking about my favorite male-male romances of 2020, and I have quite a bit. I have 10 to be exact. It's going to be, well, I take that back, 12 to be exact. 2 are just going to be some honorable mentions, and then I have my top 10. Male-male romance is a genre I've been into for many years, and it has definitely become my top genre, up there with mysteries and thrillers. So that's why I saved the best for last, so to speak. Although I do have one more video I'd like to put up, maybe talking about my disappointing reads, but there are 2 books that I really want to talk to y'all about that I absolutely loved in 2020, and I just didn't know where to put them in my favorites, but they were definitely my favorites. So I think we're going to talk about those 2 books in that video, and then along with some disappointments maybe, or maybe some reads that I didn't particularly like. So like I said, I have my top 10, but I have 2 books that I just want to shout out to. One of them is a series, and I should have mentioned it in my male-male romance series, and that is the Primetime series by Ella Frank. I loved this little trio of books. The first book is called Inside Affair, and this is the beginning of Xander and Sean's relationship. Xander and Sean have known each other since they were teenagers, I believe. Xander was Sean's brother's best friend, and they actually dated a little bit. Sean's brother, not Xander and Sean. Sean was always considered to be a straight guy in Xander's eyes. This is also sort of a hate to lovers kind of story, because they never particularly liked one another in the past. But years later, here we are. Xander is a professional news anchor. He's pretty popular. Sean he works for the police force, I believe. I believe he's like a detective of some sort. But in the beginning of the book, we learn that Xander has a stalker, and Xander's boss insists that he get a bodyguard. So Xander knows the perfect person, Sean. So he goes to Sean that evening to ask Sean if he would please be his bodyguard, tells him the situation. So not only do we have like this kind of friends to lovers relationship happening, but we also have a little bit of action pack going on in the book, which I really enjoyed. So the 2 guys end up starting up also a fake relationship. So this is also a fake relationship trope. That is the first book. Kind of gets us set up with the characters, Xander and Sean's past and personalities and how they feel about each other. The book is a very, very slow burn. This one, the first one, very, very slow, because the guys are just getting to know each other. Sean's not sure about his feelings, so he's got to explore that for himself before he makes a commitment to Xander. Xander's not one to really give his heart away so quickly. He's more focused on his career. So very, very slow burn. Love the banter between the 2 in this book. And then we go right into Breaking News, which is book 2. Book 1 definitely leaves you with a cliffhanger, so I had to jump right into the next one. But in the second book, we don't get much as far as like action-packed, as far like the first one was. The second book is just focused on Xander and Sean and them 2 just getting to know each other more and exploring the possibility of a relationship between the 2 of them. They're growing to love one another in this book, and Sean's trying to express his feelings the best way he can, not knowing that he could, you know, love another man as much as he's loving Xander. So that's basically the second book, and then of course we jump into the third book, which is Headlines. Once again, book 2 leaves us with a little bit of a cliffhanger, not as intense as the first one, but we still got that cliffhanger there. So we move on to book 3, and this book focuses definitely on Xander and Sean's relationship, more of how Sean is trying to adjust to, I don't know if adjust is the right word, but you know, he didn't know he could love another man, and so this is, you know, they're very new for him, so he's trying to figure out how the best way to go about it is, you know, breaking the news to not only his family, but as well as his co-workers. And then this book also focuses on Bailey, who is Sean's brother that Xander had been best friends with for years. Like I said in the beginning, they also had a little bit of a relationship. So I believe Bailey in this book has a little bit of a jealousy problem. So we're focusing more on that issue in this book, and then the fact of how Xander and Sean are going to deal with Bailey. Is it worth them having a relationship? Should they pursue this relationship, or for the sake of Bailey, call it quits? The first and the third book were basically my favorites in the series, but the series is great. Absolutely loved it. Highly recommend it. And I definitely have to mention the Understatement of the Year by Serena Bowen. This is actually book 3 in her Ivy League series, but it's the only male-male romance in the series. So I just popped it out of the series and read it alone. I have not read any other books in that series. So this can definitely be read on its own. This book gave me very Him and Us vibes. I mean, very, very similar, different characters, a little bit of a different story. So this is a story about Graham and Ricker. Graham and Ricker knew each other at a young age. Long story short, they fell in love at like 15. An incident occurs that sort of draws them apart. And then years later, they end up on like the same hockey team. Ricker came out as gay, but Graham is very, very, very deep in the closet. Ricker ends up like being on, joining Graham's team. So of course, you know, sparks start to fly again. But with Graham being so far into the closets, there's complications. There was a lot of sexual tension between these two, which made the story that much better. It was just, oh, I loved it so much. I love a good kind of coming out kind of story, and this was definitely one of them to put on your list. All right, let's get this party started because I have 10 books to tell y'all about. So coming in at number 10, again, this was very hard to like give them numbers. They're all my number 1. This is why it's called my favorites. But coming in at number 10 is Ethan Who Loved Carter by Ryan Lovelace. Such a sweet love story, y'all. If you have not read this, I highly recommend it. It will give you warm and fuzzies all over. So we have Carter and Ethan. Carter is a 24-year-old young man doing pretty well for himself, being he has Tourette's syndrome. So he has a lot of tics and twitches about him, but it's what makes him Carter. And he tries not to let it take over his life, and tries not to let it get in the way of who he wants to be and who he wants to be known as. And then we have poor Ethan. Ethan was actually in an accident years ago that has left him brain damaged. So he's just a little bit on the more naive side. It's like he knows things. He knows what he wants. He just doesn't quite know the right way to express it. Carter actually moves next door to Ethan, and they end up forming a beautiful little friendship that turns into more. And it was just a beautiful, sweet little story between these two men who have, you know, who are just different, and it just turns into like each of them like taking care of the other person. If you have not read this, definitely put it on your TBR. Coming in at number 9 is A Guy Walks Into the Bar. This is by Lauren Blakely. First of all, I had no idea Lauren Blakely wrote male-male romances. I've tried one of her male-female romances in the past and I just could not get through it. I don't know if it was just because the characters, the character was full of himself. The sex scenes were just not satisfying to me, I guess. I don't know another way to put it, but it kind of blew me off Lauren Blakely. But here I am picking up I picked up several male romances that she has written, and this was one of them, and I absolutely loved it. In her stories, there are no, being gay isn't an issue. So there's no angst or anything with that storyline, which I appreciate it. So I just like a good story about everybody that gets along, and there's no conflict in the fact that you're gay. It was just a story between two guys that fell for each other, and I absolutely loved it. We have Dean, who owns a bar in London. Then we have James, aka Fitz, who is a NHL star who is coming to London with his sister. So while he's there, he figures he's gonna have a good time. He's on a little vacation, so he's gonna have a good time. He walks into Dean's bar and sees Dean, and they go from there. And both of these guys have intentions of kind of like, I don't want to say love them and leave them, but they're not one to strike up a relationship. They usually do better with like one night stands or, little flings, things like that. So that's what they think this is going to be on both sides, and they end up like really, really liking each other, really enjoying their company. Yeah, so we go from just like a occasional hookup to maybe a little bit something more. It was just a fun, easy read, and I appreciated it and I loved it. And number 8 is Honeymoon for One by Kira Andrews. Loved this story. I'm gonna say that for every book. Love this book or this story. It was great. Oh my goodness. So anyway, in this book we have poor little Ethan. Again, another Ethan character. He is about to get married, so he thinks his life couldn't get any better until he walks in on his fiance with another man who is also his best friend. Like, what? So Ethan leaves and goes on the honeymoon that he was supposed to have with his lover, with the love of his life that he thought. And this is where he meets Australian Clay, who is part of like the tour that Ethan takes on his like little vacation, I guess we're gonna call it now. Ethan has been diagnosed with late deafened, so he's very hard of hearing. So he kind of attaches himself to Clay, and Clay's all for it. Clay's such a good character, such a caring person, and he kind of takes to Ethan, and they form this friendship. And once again, we have a character that Clay was married to a woman. He has 2 kids, I believe. He's in his 40s. But he finds himself being very attracted to Ethan, not only as a friend, but something more that he can't quite put his finger on. So another good sort of coming out story, coming to know your sexuality, exploring those sensations, and I loved it. I loved these 2 guys, and I love what they meant to each other. But a great story between these 2 guys and getting to know each other and form a relationship between the 2. Coming in at number 7, we have Fakers. This is actually from the Licking Thicket series, but in the year 2020 I did not like go through the series. That's why it wasn't in my top male romance series, but it is up there. I highly recommend the series, all of it. Fakers is the first book in the series. So of course, just by the title, it's about fake relationships. This was such a fun book. I laughed so hard in this book. So we're in a little town in Tennessee called Licking Thicket, and they have like the Licking Festival, and all the innuendos in this story for this little town were just, it was just hilarious. I highly recommend the read just for the fun of reading it. And yeah, I put in my Goodreads, Brooks is one of our characters that we're following. Brooke is gay. He works in, I think he's working in like New York or something, like some big city. And he has to come home to Licking Thicket, Tennessee, to take his dad's place as the head licker. in this year's licking festival. It was hilarious. So he's wearing a shirt that says head licker. It's the best ever. I highly recommend it. So anyway, we also follow, well, we follow Mao, but we follow Mao, who is best friends with, what is her name? Ava. Ava and Brooks were actually like the couple to, you know, the head couple of high school, whatever you want to call it. Like, she was the head cheerleader, he was the quarterback of the football team kind of thing. But he broke up with her and came out at the same time, like their senior year, and they haven't really talked since. So Ava is also going back to Licking Thicket, Tennessee for the Licking Festival. There's a lot of tongue twisting happening there. And even though his mother knows he's gay, she's still trying to hook him up with Ava. So in order for her maybe to not do that so much, Brooks takes his best friend and colleague from work with him to be his fake boyfriend. And then Ava, who wants to try to make Brooks jealous, brings Mao with her as her fake boyfriend, but Mao is totally gay. So there's a lot of mixed relationships happening in this book. Lots of fake things, fake relationships going on. It's so much fun. So you know, so they go to Licking Thicket. They go to all the licking festivals, all the events, because Brooks is the head licker. I wrote in here, this is not your typical fake love to real love story. It's even funner than that. It's a story about your best friend and coworker falling for your ex-girlfriend, and you falling for the ex-girlfriend's fake boyfriend. Confused yet? Don't worry, it all makes perfect sense. Yes, that's exactly how I can describe it. It might sound confusing when I try to explain it to you, but I just read the book. If you only read this one, so far it's been my favorite. I mean, there's only been 2. I'm on like 2.5 right now. The third book, I believe, comes out at the end of this month, but I loved it. Put it on your TBR. You won't be disappointed. I don't know if I said, but Fakers is by Lucy Lennox and May Archer. And then coming in at number 6 is Say You'll Be Nine, also by Lucy Lennox. This is the first book in yet another series that she will be continuing. I have yet to get to the second book. I don't even know if it's out yet. I haven't heard anything. But what a great start to a series. Hopefully the rest of the books will be just as good, which, if gone by Lucy Lennox and all the other books I read by her, I don't doubt that it will be a great series. This story kind of revolves around a YouTube channel. So we follow Nine, or Isaac, and Cooper. They're kind of helping each other out. Nine is, he's such a lovable character. He's like this kind of lumberjack kind of guy. He's never considered himself to be straight nor gay. He's never really had serious relationships. He's went out with a couple girls, but it just wasn't his thing. So he just figured, he's just going about his business. He's like this loner lumberjack guy who just likes to work in his hardware store and fix things and put it on YouTube so he can help other people. And it helps the store as well, so people come in and buy stuff from him that he's used on his YouTube channel. So very smart guy. And then we have Cooper. Cooper, I believe, was best friends with one of Nine's brothers, because Nine is, or Isaac, is like the 9th child in the family. That's why he's called Nine for a reason. Cooper is very, very gay and he's not much of an outdoorsy kind of guy, but circumstances come about to where he needs Nine's help, or they kind of go about helping each other in the end. Nine needs his help to start up this YouTube channel for a company that he's agreed to collaborate with, but they want him to collaborate. They want him to be in a relationship with another guy and like going in the woods and like refurbishing an old cabin. So they like have this like this scene that they already want set up. So it starts out definitely as a fake relationship. Cooper agrees to help Nine out with this, and they start this fake relationship where they go out into the woods and they start rebuilding this cabin. So it's really fun to get the whole YouTube aspect of it. And then we have the story of them two getting to know each other and falling for each other. And Nine is starting to come into himself and realize that, you know, he is attracted to another man. It's a very sweet story. I really enjoyed it. I can't wait to see what else she comes out with for this series. At number 5 is Trouble by Devin McCormick. If you haven't read anything by Devin McCormick, please pick up something. He is such a phenomenal writer. And being gay himself, you can feel it coming from a true source, if you know what I mean. But I always love his books. Sometimes they can be a little on the raunchy side, but hey, you know, what ifs. But this one was such a good story. This is Kyle and James's story. James is in a new town, coming to a new teaching job. He finally left his bitch of a wife. Oh my God, I hated this woman. She was like a horrible person, horrible. So he's trying to start over and get away from her. And he's having a little bit of a bad day, and like this mysterious, like good-looking young man comes to his rescue. Later on, he realizes this mysterious young man, he thinks that he looks like he could be, maybe another teacher. So he's thinking, oh, maybe we can become friends, you know. He ends up being a student. So this is Kyle. Kyle comes across as a troubled teen. Although he's 18 or 19 years old, he comes across as just troubled, bad boy kind of image, and seems to get in a lot of trouble, but really he's not. He's really not. He just has that image, and for some reason, you know, he plays on that, and other people play on that as well. Kyle becomes very, very attracted to his new teacher, James. He tries to fight this attraction because, I mean, he is his teacher and is forbidden. So we have a forbidden romance here, which I loved. Very, very slow burn, but it was good to the very last drop. They do form this friendship between each other, and in the back of James's mind, he knows that these feelings he's having for his student are not right, but he can't help it. And Kyle, knowing that it's not right to pursue his teacher, can't help it. It's so good. It's so good. Highly, highly recommend it if you haven't read it yet. If you haven't read any Devin McCormick, start with this one. It's a really good one. It's a sort of a slow burn, kind of good forbidden love story. Oh, and it's also like a first time. You know, James has only been with this horrible woman, and he's finding that he has feelings for Kyle. So another kind of coming into your sexuality, first time kind of story. So all good things. At number 4 is Finding Finley by Riley Hart. These two guys just, I think, have become my favorite couple. Next to Dean and Sloane, these two guys, oh, and of course, Jamie and Wes. It has so many great couples out there, but Aiden and Finley, wow, what a story. I was blown away by the story, and I just saw that Riley Hart has come out with a second book to this. I guess this is going to be a series. I think it's called Finding Ian. So I'm anxious to read that one. I don't think it's quite out yet, but I'm looking forward to it. But in Finding Finley, we have Finley and Aiden's story. There's a lot going on in this story. Finley sort of grew up on his own. His mother was a single mother. She worked very odd hours, wasn't always able to take care of her son. And then Finley loses her at such a young age and sort of kind of takes to the streets. He actually meets Aiden over the years as like a kid and a young kid. And Aiden is a doctor as well as a dom, and he hasn't had anyone serve him in a while. He hasn't like found that perfect sub. Long story short, they end up meeting again. Finley is taken back by Aiden because he remembers him, and he remembers the kindness that he showed Finley. Finley remembers Aiden, is what I'm saying. And so Aiden, there's an age gap here. I don't remember how old Aiden is, but it says here there's a 19-year age gap. But it's a beautiful story. Finley is a virgin. He's always had that crave to be someone's sub. He's always wanted someone just to take care of him, to love him, just show him the way. So this is where Aiden comes in, and Aiden sort of kind of takes him into his home. It's not sexual in the beginning, just sort of kind of takes care of Finley because he sees that Finley needs someone to take care of, and Aiden strongly needs to take care of someone that is just the dom in him. So it's a beautiful story between the two. It's kind of a slow burn because Aiden is afraid to take advantage of Finley, since Finley is so inexperienced, and he just wants to concentrate on caring for him, getting him the right schooling, that sort of thing. So it's a beautiful love story. Big age gap, but it works. It works well. I loved it. I can't wait to read the second one. Number 3 is Someday Someday by Emma Scott. Again, amazing, beautiful story. Just the story in general is amazing. If you're just looking into the genre, this would be a great place to start, because the author just focuses on the story of these two guys, separate and together, because they both have somewhat of a past, and both are kind of struggling to just be happy and be in the present, and they find each other. This is Max and Silas's story. Max was kicked out of his home at a very young age for being gay. He has struggled to survive in the past, being on the street, had no one to go to, but he is now happy and he is making a life for himself. I believe he's like a nurse of some sort. Then we have Silas, who comes from a very rich family. He was sent to a conversion therapy camp when he was just a boy, where horrible things happened to him, where they were trying to reprogram him. What Silas went through was brutal. You get a little bit of the story, so any trigger warnings, if you have trouble reading anything like that, just putting it out there. There is a little bit of Silas's backstory of what he went through in these conversion camps. Years later, Silas is basically just a shell. He has come to the point where he knows he can't be who he is in order to get his father's trust, because he's like the sole heir to whatever his father has created, some sort of company. I think he is. Or does he have a brother? But I don't think the brother, there's something with the brother. The father doesn't want to give it to the brother. He wants to give it to Silas. But in order for Silas to take over the company, he has to act like he is normal. The two guys meet when Max shows up at Silas's home to be his father's nurse. Silas's father is very ill, and so this is where the two guys meet. And I loved their meeting because Silas is like so angry, and Max sees that he's struggling and just wants to help him, but Silas is hard-headed basically, and they kind of form this, I guess I want to say like hate to love, but it's not too much hate, it's just Max just wants to help him, and Silas so much wants to give in to his cravings, but he knows deep down that he can't. It was just a story of sadly what people have to go through in order to just feel loved. But it was a very beautiful story. We're almost there, y'all. Coming in at number 2 is Endless Stretch of Blue, again by Riley Hart. Wow. Wow, wow, wow. This was such a good story. I think I'm going to say that for every book. Very, very slow burn story. This is between Enzo and Damon. Both these guys could consider themselves straight. Something tragic happens in both their lives, and they end up realizing that, how do I say it without giving it away? They're both involved in this tragic incident that happened, and they sort of come together and befriend each other and sort of help each other cope through whatever guilt that they have. They both have the guilt in very different ways. Enzo is a very talented carpenter, sort of works construction. He's always felt like the black sheep of the family, and then when this happened, he's always felt the guilt of it, and he feels like his family is also blaming him. Then we have Damon, a very successful hospital manager. Damon's mom suffers from Alzheimer's, so he holds the guilt of not really being able to tell her what has happened. So these two guys end up running into each other one night. They're both hanging out in the place where it happened. So that's kind of how they find out about each other, and they, like I said, they start to form this friendship that sort of leads into something more. They both have these feelings for each other that they never felt before, and they want to explore them. They're just the story of finding each other and just becoming more fond of each other, I guess, is so raw and just sexy, and it's one of my favorite stories. I feel like I need to read it again just to feel what I felt reading it. I loved it. And number 1, I don't know if you've guessed it, but number 1, the top male romance I have read in 2020 is Virgin Flyer by Lucy Lennox. When I think of this story, or even when I just see the cover, I'm still on top of the world with this story. I loved it so much, and it all starts at the very beginning. It all has to do with a hookup app and what was written in that hookup app. So we start off with Tio. Tio is sort of pining over, I guess, his best friend, Chris. He sort of made a promise that they would be together. Chris hasn't told like his parents that he's gay or that he is interested in another man. I think he comes from a wealthy family where they expect him to marry a nice girl and have a family of his own. So he's not ready to jump into a relationship with Tio. Tio is tired of waiting on him. He's missing out on everything. He's missing out on being who he is, being able to be with men and being able to love men openly. He's sort of like pining over Chris. And so one night he like just has enough, and he's like, you know what? I'm gonna post this on a hookup app and see what happens. He posts, "One night of lovemaking with absolutely no talking. I just want to be held and loved on without chit-chat or expectations. Treat me like I'm the most important thing in the world. Please stay all night and hold me, but don't be surprised if I'm gone in the morning." So Jack is a airline pilot, and he's hopping from plane to plane, city to city, country to country. I don't know. So he's not very much into having a relationship. He's more of a one-night stand kind of guy. He'll go for his steak dinner and look for a hookup, and that's his perfect night in. before he has to, you know, hit the airs again. So he runs across Tio's entry, and he's intrigued. He thinks, what a perfect hookup for tonight. No strings attached, no expectations, nothing is, no talking, and then done. It's perfect. That was hands down the sexiest love scene I have ever read in my life. I must read it again. Just talking about it now. It was, from the moment Tio opens the door to Jack, it's just, wow. Hot. And their story takes off from there. Jack can't stop thinking of this hookup, and neither can Tio. They don't know who each other are. They only know like their hookup names. I think Tio is a nurse, so was it Nurse T? Yes, Nurse T, and Jack is Fly Guy. Tio is such a lovable character. Jack is as well, but he's like the caretaker in the relationship. He's only focused on Tio and what Tio wants, and I loved every minute of this book. Just them trying to find each other and coming together at different points in the story, and then just how they're going to figure out how to be together in the end. Yes, I have to read this again. All right, y'all, that is it. I have a feeling this is going to be one of my longest videos that we've had in a while, but there were so many to talk about, and it was hard to really give you quick. I mean, I tried to be as quick as I could, but sometimes, you know, you just have those feelings and you just roll with it. I love this genre so much. I can't explain why. I just do. So if you have any recommendations for me, I would love to hear from you. You've already gave me such great recommendations over the past year. So yes, definitely, if you have anything for me, leave it down below in the comments. I'd love to go check it out. Thank y'all so much for sticking around and listening to me go on and on and on about how much I love all these books. Hope y'all are all doing well out there, staying safe. Hugs from me all around, and I will see y'all in my next video. Bye, y'all.